Hey, it's Matt from Black Coal Woodworking. Today I'm making something for my hair. So, right up front, I want to say that at my age, not everybody has hair, so I feel really blessed to have some, and I'm going to do what I can with it while I've got it. And this really isn't a video about my hair, it's more about a video of me making a container for the stuff that I make for my hair. So, if you want to make one of these, it's actually a lot of fun, pretty easy actually. And the stuff I make for my hair is made out of walnut oil, which is apparently something that helps with hair growth. Obviously, a key thing for this whole deal. So, sit back and enjoy. Here we go. To make this little container, you're going to need a piece of scrap 2x4, and I am using my bandsaw to cut it into a square. You can use a chop saw, a table saw, a hand saw, whatever you got. It don't matter. You just need to make it a square. After that, I marked out a center point with a Sharpie, and I did that by just placing a piece of scrap wood across both corners, and makes it really easy. I drilled a hole with the drill press. I think that's about a 5/8 inch bit, but I'm not 100% sure. I had to hold up the screw chuck for my lathe to get the right bit size, and I didn't have any measurements on the drill bit itself. After that, I put on a little spacer for that screw chuck and screwed on that little square of 2x4. The next step here is just me making this little thing round. That way I can start to shape the bowl that I want, because I hadn't quite figured that out. I'm doing this kind of on the fly, just to see what I can do, designing real time really. I found that if you turn the bowl gouge on its side almost entirely, you get kind of an angel hair noodle shaving, and it makes that piece of wood really smooth. In the right light, it actually kind of looks shiny. So after it's round, I use the 1/2 inch bowl gouge to start to shape the sides of this bowl. I wanted to take as little off the top of the bowl as possible. Right now you're staring at the bottom of the bowl. The top of the bowl is currently closest to the lathe itself. Once I had the outside shape done, I needed to create a foot for the bowl. This foot's also going to double as the method that I'm going to chuck it with. I'm going to use the 4-jaw chuck to grab onto this little foot. So it's going to have a tiny little taper. It's not really that big. It doesn't really look like much of a foot, but it's enough for the chuck to hold it. And I'd forgotten to flatten the face of that bottom, so I needed to do that. But I also knew that beyond flattening it, I'm actually going to create a recess here just to make it look a little bit more interesting and a little more finished. One thing I noticed as I was re-watching this video is that that bowl looks way bigger on the lathe than it really is. This bowl really just fits in the hand, and you'll see that at the end of the video. By the way, all this shaping on the bottom is being done with a spindle gouge. I'm not sure what size it is, but it's pretty small. After that, I switched over to like a diamond parting tool, or I don't know what it's really called, but it's kind of diamond shaped. And I used that to create a deeper recess under the bowl, and I couldn't help decorating the bottom with a little ring, so I threw that in there too. With the outside of the bowl done, it was time to chuck it up and take care of the inside and hollow it out. I switched back to my 1/2 inch bowl gouge to take care of the inside of this bowl. If you're wondering why I wear gloves, notice the steam that was coming off the wood there. It gets really hot, and even though this is literally a dried 2x4, it still sprays a bunch of steam on it. and I'd rather not get that on my hand. Definitely wouldn't feel very nice. And as long as I keep my hands behind the tool rest, then my hands are totally safe. I knew I had to leave the bowl fairly thick at this point because I'm going to be putting an inset lid on this thing, and in order to do that I needed a little more thickness around the rim so that I can put the notch where I need it and make it as thick as I want so that it stays sturdy. It's at this point I realized my rim wasn't quite flat, so I decided that was the time to take it down, so I knew what material I had left and what I could play with. It is still a little bit too thick for what I'm going for, so here I'm using the spindle gouge to take out some of that thickness, but it allows me to get a little more detailed and not take such a big chunk. I decided to switch to a scraper. It's a round nose scraper. It just allows me to deal with the bottom of the bowl a little bit better. I find that with the spindle gouge I can't get the bevel on the bottom, so I end up with a bunch of lines, whereas the scraper is nice and sharp and it does a really good job of making that smooth. I didn't have to do a whole lot of sanding at all. And you'll notice you don't see any sanding in this video because while I did some, I didn't bother filming it. It just didn't really take that long, and it's never that interesting anyway. I switched over to the diamond point scraper here, and I used the point and the side to kind of push into the rim of the bowl to establish how deep and how thick I want that ledge to be for the lid. And then after that was done, I took care of angling that rim inward just a little bit more. And you'll see me kind of tie the lid in with that in a little while. This piece of wood, yet another square of 2x4, is for the lid. This one kind of goes through similar steps first anyway. I made it round, that way I knew kind of what I was dealing with. Once it was round, I kind of eyeballed the spot and drew with pencil where I wanted that little handle to be. You can see a lot of steam coming off the wood there again, so it makes me wonder how dry this wood really wasn't. Anyway, I'm using a 1/2 inch bowl gouge to kind of work my way toward that handle. Now there is a taper here that you can't see, and you'll hopefully see that in a bit here as I get closer to finishing the shape of the top. Here I switched over to the spindle gouge to be able to give my handle a bit of a taper and make it easier to pull off the lid. Here you can also see a bit of the taper on the top of the lid I was talking about. couldn't help but make another little ring on that little lid for decoration. This part here is probably the trickiest in the whole part of this project. It's not really that hard, but I did measure to see how wide the inside of the bowl is supposed to be, and I used my caliper to mark it on the lid. Once I had it marked, I used my diamond point tool again to help shave down to about that line. And then I started dry fitting the bowl on top just to make sure I didn't overshoot it. Got really close there. Not close enough, but I could feel it catching on the edges, which was a good sign, so just meant I needed to go a little bit more. And so close. Don't like that. But can't argue with perfection. Okay. How deep? Clearly that's a good moment when it finally fits nicely. So I marked the depth on how deep I needed to go. Thankfully this lid will turn around and it's really easy to measure when you do it this way. I know this lid's upside down technically, but the outer diameter will be the exact same, so if it fits now, it fits later. So I really just worked my way up to the line, made sure that the cuts were nice and smooth, cleaned them up a bit, and just did some more test fitting. Ow, pinched myself. Dang. If I do say so myself, that's dang near perfect. Here I flipped the lid around and mounted it in the chuck right up to the spot that I had just finished cutting to. So at this point, I'm really just trying to take away all this wood and then hollow it out inside some as well. I do realize that the jaws I have for this are not ideal. They did leave tiny little marks. They were small enough that I'm okay with it. If I had another set of jaws to do this, it would be great, but I'm going to use what I have. Here I'm trying to work my way to the inside of the lid. I do have a kind of a depth hole. It's not really that I drilled it for depth, but it's the hole that I used for the screw chuck. I know that if I get to the bottom of that, I'm pretty close to where I should stop. So I'm using it as a depth hole. And then I've got to take out the sides of this thing, which are right up against the metal jaws. So currently I'm using a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. That will not be the tool I use when I get closer to the metal because I don't want to damage this tool. And here I go with some more decorating lines. They're just way too much fun. The rim that's left is really thin now, so I'm super close. It's time to switch to a different tool. Can't see it really well here, but this is a round nose scraper again. It's a tool that I find really easy to sharpen, and I'm taking really small passes so that I don't really nick the metal a whole lot at all. And then here I'm actually just scooping out more of the inside as well. It turns out you can have too many decorating lines, so I got rid of some. With the inside of the lid done, I stuck it on the bowl itself, used the foot to grab into the jaws there, and continued to shape the lid so that it blended into the side of the outside of the bowl. It's kind of a nice way to do that. Can't really mess that up as long as your friction fit of that lid holds. Here I'm applying my favorite finish, which is a boiled linseed oil and beeswax finish. It's kind of a friction polish. That is so satisfying. Oh my goodness. So here we have the little dish. I did not put finish on the inside because my hair product's going in there. But this is how it turned out so far. As you can see, the lid has a little chunk missing. That happens to be the knot that fell out somewhere. I don't even know where it went. To make my little hair product, I'm basically using beeswax and walnut oil. It's a 1:4 ratio. And that's 1 part beeswax to 4 parts walnut oil. And again, walnut oil is supposed to help you keep hair, or even grow some more, potentially. Hey, it's worth a shot, isn't it? I'm not as good at pouring as I was hoping I would be, so I had to clean off the rim of my little bowl there. But getting that stuff to come off the spoon nicely so that you get that flat little surface, that's tricky. Alright, here we go. It's the finished product. My hair product has set. It looks great in there. That's the bottom. The hair product didn't fall out. I was very happy about that. As you can tell, it fits in your hand nicely. The bowl does. It looks bigger on camera than it really is. But man, it's just a cute little bowl with a lid. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making this thing. If you did, and I've earned it, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Send me a comment if you like. I try to reply to everyone. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.